Hello.
Hey guys, hi Attendees.
Hello, hi.
Hi guys, good afternoon. This is Hiten. I hope my voice is audible.
Yes, it is.
Actually, there are two camera sets here. I am using my laptop camera also, and there's a conference room equivalent. So I'm trying to see if the voice is not echoing. I hope that the sound is fine. And first of all, most welcome to all of you. We are still allowing others to join. Maybe in a couple of minutes, the other participants will start coming in and joining in. We have roughly 9 companies which are in person planning to join us. So maybe in next 10-15 minutes, they will also join Bangalore office, the lobby, while others, around 50-60 people will join virtually on Zoom call. So, most welcome to all of you today. I am very happy that you could make time for our monthly member meetup. This is the number 5th version. I will request Poonam from my team to share the screen for the presentation. You can go ahead.
Thanks for having us here today. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Sahil. It's great that we can invite all of you together, all the big names in the BMS industry. And you all aware that we have a good community of electric vehicle companies today. And very sure that all of us together will discuss the major pain points from both sides, from the BMS manufacturers and companies, and the vehicle manufacturers and battery manufacturers, which are part of our community, which are interested in basically figuring out, I would say, what works for their product and how things can work, in the direction. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, let me start with the agenda. So we have basically 3 parts to today's session. First would be introduction and welcome note from Micelio team. We have some updates to share, and I will request Martin, David, who is head of our partnerships, to also share some updates from the partnership side and some activities which we are planning to do for the community. That at 2:30 onwards, we will start our panel discussion. As you can see, we have Chaitanya Kulkarni from Lithium Balance, Sensata Technologies. We have Sahil from Ion Energy. We have Vinay, who is from Autoven. We have Hardik from Vacancy Systems, and Anupam, who has joined us from IgrenEnergi. This will be a panel discussion. There are a couple of, I would say 3-4 questions which I have basically selected from the queries which we have collected from our members, which will be shared with all of you, the panelists, and we will request feedback, inputs, and a very productive discussion on those topics. Then from 3:30 to 4:30, we will have 3 product demos. One from Altair, the second will be from Ion Energy on their BMS products, Truventor, and so on. 4:30 to 5 and onwards, we will have a in-person networking session for all the companies who have visited us in our office today. And 4:30 will be the end of our virtual session also. So moving towards the welcome note. We have Martin with us. I think we can shift to the lobby room for Martin to speak. Or let me just pass on the camera, laptop camera. So Martin, please go ahead and share the updates from your side.
Hi. Once again, good afternoon and welcome all to the fifth one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 5th monthly meetup. So at the Micelio ability side, on the partnership side, what we've right now decided, along with RMI, I don't know, most of you must have heard of it. RMI, it's a think tank which is very much working with NITI Aayog and other Ministry of Heavy Industries. We've done about 2 years back, we had done an event with them called the Urban Mobility Lab. So we are taking it to the next step. This time we are focusing on the ecosystem and more from a startup point of view. We are trying to work on a policy front targeting the ecosystem, startups in the EV ecosystem. So that's the topic that we would like to address along with RMI, which is going to help us in the policy making. So the next 2-3 months, RMI along with Micelio team would be reaching out to all the leaders in the startup ecosystem across the country to hear you, to listen to you, and to work with you, and probably take and address all our pain points so that tomorrow, after we come up with a solution statement, we will be able to take it to the government and advocate our needs and requirements. So this is in the pipeline. In the next 2 to 3 months, we hope this activity should be completed. In the next 1 month at least, somebody from our side and the RMI would be reaching out to each one of you. That's a quick update. And then Hiten and me, we are actively working with the Ministry of Heavy Industries to create a larger play along with the government to see how the roadmap is for the next 5 years plus, creating these skill sets, creating the ecosystem for the next generation, where the Indian automotive industry is like the pioneering rather than just being an importer of equipments. So that's where we are trying to work and see how we can collaborate with the government also. So these are quick updates. Next month I should have more concrete ones, but this is just a brief update for you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. And as Martin said, that the Ministry of Heavy Industry has multiple programs which are being run for startups. And one of the schemes which is having a budget of around roughly 1,000 crores is earmarked for capital investments in equipment and manufacturing facilities. That is a scheme which we are actively pursuing, and we're trying to see how we can also co-invest as industry partner. And I'm very happy and glad that our founders have shown interest that we should do some credible work in that direction. And that was the framework under which Ministry of Heavy Industry, Micelio, along with ARAI as our government partner, we have engaged. And as Martin said, there are multiple programs which has been started in the community. Earlier, it was not there, and I'm happy that the momentum and the scale at which the engagements and discussions have started to help our startups, our corporates in the community is increasing. And by next month, in the next monthly member update, we will be able to share more concrete details as Martin has informed. With that, I will move to the next section. Basically, we will start with a quick introduction of all our panelists. We will present some slides, then we will request all of them one by one to maybe share some additional updates or introduction section if they would like to give. Maybe you can move to the next slide. Yeah, before we go to introduction, this is the general summary that our panel discussion topic is BMS Challenges and Opportunities. Maybe we can introduce the first speaker. Yeah, thank you. First speaker is Cathrine Napolita. He is Business Development Head and he's representing Lithium Balance, which is a Sensata Technologies company. And as you can see, Cathrine is currently working with Sensata Technologies and responsible for electric powertrain product portfolio, which includes BMS, DC contactors, and other products. He has more than 16 years of experience in electric and ICE powertrain systems, and he has been working with ARAI, Mahindra, Cummins, Eaton, and similar other companies. He's also associated with Sensata Lithium Balance since December 2015, initially through the distributors, which is Device Electronics, which is one of the Indian companies which is actively working in EV space. And from 2020, he has joined Sensata directly, and he's helping the electric vehicle companies from that capacity. He has completed his PGDM from IIM Bangalore and his Master's of Mechanical Engineer from University of Pune. Our next speaker is.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Our next speaker is Sahil. Sahil is Business Development Head from IgrenEnergi. Just information that I used to work with IgrenEnergi before Micelio, so it is all friends which are back, and I'm very glad that Sahil could make time today. IgrenEnergi is accelerating Earth's transition to an all-electric future by partnering with key strategic players, driving markets towards faster adoption of EVs using advanced electronics and software solutions. Sahil currently leads business development at Maxwell Energy, Advanced Electronics Division of IgrenEnergi. And Sahil comes with a degree in electronics engineering with 5 years plus experience in B2B technology enterprise sales. Sahil is a great guy. Many of you who are looking for BMS solutions, I highly recommend to speak to Sahil. Our next speaker is Vinay Gunashekharan. He is representing Autoven. Autoven is one of our members, and I'm glad that he will be presenting his products and his company in the today's panel discussion. Vinay is the founder of Autoven, a company developing technologies and solutions powering electric vehicles and their ecosystems. Vinay has a graduate degree from Carnegie Mellon University and about 15 years of professional experience working in USA, India, leading design, development, and development of battery systems, intelligent IoT systems, and motor controllers. Our next speaker is Hardik Sheth from Vacancy System. Again, I'm happy that Vacancy is one of our members, and they are doing great work in the BMS space and other electronic space. Starting as a FPGA design engineer to spearheading development in the e-mobility sector, the story of Hardik is quite a roller coaster in his own term. Stepping out of his usual timetable, Hardik co-founded his own firm, Vacancy Systems LLP, focused on product development and design services. Hardik completed his bachelor's of engineering from Ganpati University, Mehsana, Gujarat, and master's from Sikri Manipal University. Our next speaker is Anupam from IgrenEnergi. He's Director Customer Success. And IgrenEnergi is again a very interesting and they're doing a great work in deep tech development. I have been knowing the founder from the start, and I'm very happy that they could make time today to present their products. And Anupam is the Director of Customer Success, as you can see, and has completed electrical engineering from NIT Durgapur. He has 13 years plus of experience in operations, customer engineering, and leading teams expertise and good knowledge of various technical aspects of project line related to commissioning of electrical equipments, electrical power distribution, control systems, maintenance of electrical devices like relays, heavy switchgears, etc. And he comes with 7 years of experience with IgrenEnergi in successfully leading and deployment of power electronics based energy management and optimization solutions for the customer across the globe. So this is our panel. Before I go and start the discussion, I will do one more round of inviting all the panelists one by one to add on to the introduction, because we did what they have shared. But I would be happy that we can start with a quick introduction and add some information if we have missed any. Starting with Chaitanya Kulkarni. Over to Chaitanya.
Yeah. So hi Tesh, thanks for introduction. So I must say I've been working in this space from 2015, and I could see significant change happening in the industry. So back in 2015, when we are talking about BMS, like the first question to us is, what is this BMS all about and why it is really required? And to the point where companies are writing specifications, what is required. So obviously the the industry has gone through different stages. We are at a stage where we are seeing more qualified customers. I'm more qualified as in more, I would say, customers who are well aware and they are trying to get in touch with us. So it's really exciting, and it's good that I could be part of this discussion. And yeah, secondly, I'm a mechanical engineer, so if there is any question, I'll be happy to answer to best of my knowledge. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Chaitanya. I will now request Sahil to go next and maybe introduce himself a little more. Over to you, Sahil.
Firstly, thank you, Sahil and the Micelio team for having us here. You and I know each other personally because we work together at ION. So that relationship has always been there. So thank you for having us over here. I might be an electronics engineer, but I have primarily been leading business development at the company. So my role is mostly commercial than technical. But I've been associated with the company for over 4 years now, leading business development in India and global markets as well. Like Chaitanya said, the market, back in the days when we started the company, people did not know about BMS. And, the market was quite nascent. Over the last few years, we've been seeing the market maturing, a lot of new companies, especially startups coming, and with the likes of Ola Electric and Ather creating a dent in the EV industry. It seems like we are all going in the right direction. The BMS awareness in itself is also increasing. Fortunately, unfortunately, the recent incidents have, really put the limelight on the importance of a good BMS, importance of a good battery. So that allows customers to also understand, how they should be deciding when it comes to purchasing these electric vehicles as well. So overall, really excited to be in this space. It's a great time to be in this space, and not just from a BMS standpoint, but potentially every other advanced electronics that goes inside of electric vehicles. It's a good time to be over here.
Thanks, Sahil. So thanks for presenting your views and introduction. I will move to the next speaker. Vinay, please go next.
Thanks, Hiten, for the introduction and maybe for the platform. Yeah, I think I'm quite excited to be here. So back in 2012, I was in the US and based outside Detroit, working with the US OEMs on similar electric vehicle technologies, battery management systems, and all that. It's there's a similar learning curve which we went through over there in terms of bringing these kinds of systems up and running for the EVs there. And I think, as you guys must be aware, the market has significantly matured over there. It's quite exciting to be here at this time because I can see similar kind of trends going on over here, similar challenges, similar questions being asked, and similar kind of awareness that Indian OEMs are developing as well towards the challenges. How do you make these more safer? How do you make it intelligent? How do you overall kind of make EVs a really kind of good solution for various transportation and other applications in India? So I'm kind of excited to be here at this time and in this space. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how we can bring a lot of learnings, which we did back then, over to this ecosystem over here as well. So yeah, thank you again for the opportunity.
Thanks, Vinay. It is very interesting that you have mentioned your interest and the comparison between India and abroad. And thanks for being here. I will move to the next speaker and panelist. Hardik, please go next. Hardik, if you are speaking, you might be on mute. Okay, I think there might be some issues at Hardik's side. We will try to, basically see if he's joining back then. We will go to the next speaker. Next slide, please. Yeah, Anupam, if you are there, please go next.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the introduction. It was very nice to you of giving us this introduction and platform to speak our product and everything. So firstly, yeah, what we are doing in IgrenEnergi is I've been in IgrenEnergi for the last 6.5 to 7 years. When we started here, we had an IP. We started with a solar product. We took a pivot and went into a BMS because our IP was mostly directed and was going to be used in the BMS kind of application. I have been involved here. I have been working with the product development team. So I know the product from inside out. And right now I have migrated and started working into all the customer engagements that's happening here. Like I said, I'm an electrical pass out, and I've been previously working with the big power system kind of application where the big power plants and everything. But in the power electronics field, I believe that there are a lot of scope, and with the BMS and the customers knowing about what a BMS is, that's the best thing that has happened in the recent times. People right now, like I think what Sahil and said and Chaitanya has said, people right now are coming to us and asking all the relevant questions, which are very directed and right now the customers, I believe, know what they exactly want, and that's a very important thing that we are seeing right now. So yeah, we'll take this discussion forward with all the discussions and all the questions that we'll have. Thank you.
Thanks, Anupam. So we can go to the discussion slide now. No, first 8th slide maybe. 9th, next. This one. Okay, thanks. All the speakers. So we will start our discussion. There are largely 4 questions which I have selected from the, I would say, members which we have, the network which we have, and there are a lot of problems with multiple parties are facing. So the mechanism would be that the same pattern I will follow, starting from Chaitanya. then ask him the first question, then the next panelist for the same question, their views, and then we will go to the second question and similarly the third question. My first question, which we have collected and collated from the community, is basically BMS technology localization in Indian ecosystem. What are the challenges and opportunities in that space? Because some of you are international organizations which have brought in the technology from outside, or some of you might have collaborated or acquired bits and parts of your technology. So what are your views on localization part, on bringing the basically how the commercial price sensitivity of Indian market makes sense when it comes to the international space? So if Chaitanya is back, I would like
to. Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, Chaitanya, please go ahead and share your views in the first point.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So let me split this into 2 to 3 parts. So one part is technology itself. So how do we develop here? Okay. Second part is how do we manufacture here? And third is more of a support. So I guess third is already there. So we are already supporting. But when it comes to the first part where we need to we want to develop a technology, right? So BMS per se, I would say majority of the part lies in the controls, okay, where knowledge about controls and the end application is extremely important. Okay, so BMS suitable for a two-wheeler application could be significantly different than what is required for three-wheeler application. Okay, so or even a pass car or a commercial vehicle application. Or when it comes to the requirement of energy storage, it's again a different scenario. So a BMS suitable for two-wheeler may not be suitable for let's say pass car application or other application. So that's first and foremost thing we need to really. So one size fits for all will not matter. Third thing is while developing BMS, there has been a couple of things which I guess we need to really focus on. One is core technology or core area where we look at algorithms, we look at how it safeguards battery pack. But the second important aspect is how do BMS interact with the environment with which it is working on. Like for example, other controllers or other things. So there has to be some level of standardization which need to be built in and which will slowly take over, especially for on-road application or off-road applications. We are seeing that coming up. When it comes to localization or say manufacturing, so we are doing it currently. So we are doing it in India at 2 locations for other for key customers. So challenges what we face is industry has been doing some PCBAs. So at the end of the day, we are talking about PCBA, right? So we industry is doing it. 2 to 3 things which we are facing as an issue. So one is obviously EMS facility itself. So if you look at any controller except vehicle controller in case of ECU or ECU in case of IC engine, other controllers are not that complex as that of BMS. So ability to handle complex PCBA in India is a challenge. So which I guess other like companies like Ion and other companies must be facing. So that's a challenge. Second is historically we've been importing PCBAs in India. Okay, so be it China or Malaysia or any location. So the challenge is getting core components directly from the suppliers like TI, Infineon is a big challenge. So getting those components directly is a huge challenge. So which actually impact the product price. Okay, one thing which I missed in the product development side is key component selection is a huge and important task. Like how do we select key components so that it will not meet today's requirement, but more or less the requirement for next 5 to 10 years. That's also important. And other important thing is validation. So validation part, I guess very selective companies are doing in India. So it's not only designing, but validation, which probably goes for months, is equally important. Validation in terms of product reliability, the algorithm reliability. So these things are really important. I'm sure other panelists will add to this, but in my opinion, these are the things which are really important when we have to look at localization of the BMS in India. Thank you.
Thanks, Adanya. I think quite great insights on the localization part of the BMS technology and some challenges which you also shared. Let me go to Sahil and ask him the same question, but his opinions on the first question. What challenges and opportunities he sees as far as localization of international technology is concerned. Over to you, Sahil.
Thanks, Athen. So, at a very high level, I strongly believe, and I believe this is the company stance, and a lot of people on the forum would also agree, is that localization has become quite important in the Indian context, especially. And recently, when we experienced COVID and the outbreak basically disrupted the entire supply chain, it became inevitable for companies to, start figuring out localization plans. And then even recent events such as the geopolitical tensions that have arose, and then the entire sentiment of Atmanirbharta, it's critical that we do things locally, especially for critical components such as cells, BMS, and everything else that's going inside these electric vehicles. So I also want to sort of segment this localization piece into three big segments, and I believe Chaitanya already covered some of them. So first is the R&D, or the research and development. This definitely needs to be localized because you need to have the technology control. If you have a licensing or a joint venture, you're always dependent on someone else, and especially in the Indian market when there is no standardization, every customer wants its own different requirement to be met by the BMS supplier. You need to make sure that you have control over the technology for a faster turnaround for catering to these customers. So R&D is a big piece, especially for a technological product like the BMS, which definitely needs to be localized so that you're not dependent on someone else. The second is the localized manufacturing or the assembly, the PCBA that Chaitanya mentioned. Fortunately, we haven't really faced a challenge when it comes to assembly of these boards. We did do a bunch of proto runs with a lot of EMS manufacturers in India, and were able to zero down on the ones that have the capability, which they did. So from a PCBA standpoint, we did not necessarily face the challenge. And this is something that we used to do both in India and France, because we acquired a French company that was manufacturing in France as well. So over time, we moved our entire supply chain to India from a manufacturing standpoint because it enables control over the production and the quality. And more importantly, it helps you control the cost, which is very important for a cost-conscious market like India. So PCBA hasn't been a challenge. I think quality cost is very important. You need to control that, for which localization again becomes important. And there are a lot of EMS manufacturers in India who are providing these services today. One of the biggest challenges that we've been facing is with respect to component procurement. And this has only been aggravated with the recent semiconductor shortages. So components, as you all know, semiconductors, electronic components are mostly imported. While India has set up the PLI scheme and fabrication lines will come up, it's not going to come up in the near future. It takes time for these lines to come up and then production to begin. So until then, we are still dependent on international manufacturers and suppliers and distributors to supply these components, without which you cannot do the assembly of the PCB. So that's where we are seeing the main challenge. But otherwise, everything else outside of that, we believe could be localized in India. We have the talent, we have the resources, and we have the necessary capital to do that today.
Thanks, Sahil. Thanks for your views on the localization bit. Now I will request Vinay to go next. Go to you, Vinay.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Hithin. Sure. So I think, first, maybe I'd like to talk with why, and then we move on to the challenges part. I think fundamentally, when we think of localization, there is still a fair amount of impetus that we give on the Make in India, making things locally, beating off our dependency on imports, these kinds of things, right? But I think one of the points which probably gets washed out in all these discussions is the need for localization for more pertinent and important reasons, because India as such is a different country. It's the temperature ranges are very different. The road conditions are very different. The vibration pattern that goes on a battery and on the BMS and on your overall vehicle is quite different. The safety standards that you have to follow are different. The culture is different. So if I have to give a quick example, I was once working with a fleet operator, and they were using vehicles from 2 different OEMs, right? And I noticed that a certain delivery executive was using a different charger, the other OEM's charger for this. And when I asked him why he's doing that, he said it charges faster because that one gives 2 volts higher than this charger. Now, for someone who is working with batteries and BMS, that's very alarming because you're pumping more current through the battery, and he's just trying to charge it faster without actually understanding the ramifications of it. It could go to a thermal runaway and catch fire in the entire place, right? And today you can just plug different chargers wherever you want, and this is kind of how it is. So fundamentally, when I think about localization, I actually think about how do you make a product which has to solve these kinds of very pertinent challenges that are faced by the Indian people, and maybe because of our culture, the way we work with things, etc., and make sure our products are robust and foolproof such that it kind of sustains the Indian market and the Indian culture and the Indian people, the safety, the temperature, everything over here. So when I think about localization, I would say that that is what should maybe kind of play more with a higher importance than just weeding off imports and those kinds of things. As far as the challenges go, I would say it is just the engineering challenge right now. How do you kind of attack and solve these kinds of problems? How do you make sure that your BMS is smart enough to understand it needs to cut off the battery when something like this is happening, when there is a high temperature that's coming, when the vibrations are beyond a certain value, when the vehicle is being driven improperly or there is mishandling. Yeah, so I mean, the major challenges for this is how do you kind of now design a product that is completely catering to the Indian experience, the Indian ecosystem, Indian people, Indian culture, Indian temperature, environments, these kinds of things, right? So in a nutshell, I think this is what I would say is both the importance for localization, the need for localization. Of course, there are manufacturing and all these other challenges, which I think some of the other panelists are mentioning too. So I don't want to get into that again. But in my head, I would kind of play these parts to be a lot more important than, maybe some of the other conversations we have on localization most of the time.
Thanks, Vinay. I think quite interesting the insights and observations which you have made. Now I will request Anupam from IgrenEnergi to share his views. Over to you, Anupam.
Yeah. So yeah, all good points mentioned here. One point I wanted to touch upon is that when we look into the BMS technology used right now and the BMSs which are right now imported from maybe it's China or other places, what we figure out is that they all use the semiconductor chips from say Infineon and whatever you say, Infineon, NXP and stuff like that, and they piggyback their BMS architecture around it where they design the peripherals. The problem with this kind of approach, what we feel is that the scope of localization is limited because you can only design your peripherals according to the Indian environment and conditions. Many of us here right now are doing it. What we are doing right now is that we design the system from bottom up. We select each and every component which makes a BMS, and we obviously figure out the supply chain, we figure out the manufacturing, EMS, all those challenges as mentioned are all pertinent, and they are right now in India. But I believe what we should do is that if we can do a design from bottom up, then what will happen? The localization will become important, and it would be very pertinent to work in Indian environment with the localization. So yeah, I believe as we go forward, many of us are doing it, and many of others who will in India will start making BMS design where everything is designed from bottom up rather than just piggy banking from some semiconductor chips or their balancing.
Thanks, Anupam. I think that concludes our first question, the discussion from the panelists regarding the localization bit. Now, what I will do is basically go for question number 2 and question number 3 combined. Again, the same round robin style. The second question is basically what are the major challenges in BMS technology in automotive space? Because now BMS are used in various industries, stationary applications, there are ESS applications, but specific to automotive application, what do you think are the challenges like, Anupam was saying that vibration and environmental condition in India is totally different. And so what is your, I would say, experience in this space? That is my second question. Like, what are the major challenges around the automotive space of BMS? The third question is basically, what are your recommendations for battery companies and the vehicle companies which are using your BMSs? No, because there are many of our members which are developing vehicles, and some of them are developing batteries in-house. So what should they, while they are figuring out their design before they finalize and commit budgets to it, or and be in a position where they cannot come back? What are your suggestions to them with respect to BMS selection? So again, I will start with Chaitanya. Go ahead, Chaitanya.
Yeah. Thanks, Hitesh. So I'll go with for second question, which is about the challenges, right? So we've been seeing market evolving over time, okay? But and as Sahil also mentioned, the technology initially came from other parts of the world, right? Even the cell design was not specifically for India. So if we are to do something very specific to India, right, we need to have that data. Like for example, when we were working on a two-wheeler or BMS suitable for two-wheeler application, right, it's very hard to define or explain to somebody who is sitting in Europe what is required in end application or how the end application will look like. Okay, so how it's being used. So getting that application data is, I would say, primary challenge for any BMS design in India. Okay, because we don't have that data right now. I mean, if you have to collect, it will take time, but that is something we need to really look at. Secondly, being an independent BMS manufacturer, challenges on understanding the cell behavior, right? Because typically this data resides with the cell manufacturers. So how do we understand and design? So for this, I guess company will have to invest into some packs, or I am specifically talking about BMS companies, packs and understanding the cell behavior, and then create or develop an algorithm or improve existing algorithm. This is second part. Third is there's still some challenge coming from customer. Like customer really need to understand that the BMS which is required, right, for their application may not be something which is standard off the shelf. So each application being unique, we need to really create a solution for that particular requirement. So there are many, but I would say these are the three critical challenges what we are facing today. Okay. So I'm sorry, I missed the second question, Nitish.
Yeah, so I think both you have covered.
Okay.
Chaitanya. Second was basically the challenges, specifically the BMS in automotive space. What is different between, say, a BMS in ESS and a BMS in automotive space? I'm very sure that many people are using, BMS which are not suitable for automotive application. So if you would like to suggest or give certain, I would say, suggestions to the young engineering teams which are trying to make, the startups which are trying to make.
Maybe I can give an example, like how BMS could be different for energy storage application and for the station for the auto, right? So let's take an example of two-wheeler which is 2 kilowatt hour capacity, 48 volt, and there's a 48 volt 10 kilowatt hour pack for energy storage, right? So amount of energy or current drawn from 2 kilowatt hour could be even higher for higher than what we are drawing for 10 kilowatt. So practically one need to really understand how the end system is going to behave. So in case of two-wheeler, the amount of acceleration, deceleration we are going to face, expected level of acceleration is significantly different. So let's say instead of acceleration, let's say current requirement is significantly different for the energy storage application. Again, it's a stationary, so the mechanical requirements are going to be different. Third is there are many controllers in the vicinity of the battery pack. So obviously, how do we protect our product from EMI, EMC interference? Secondly, how does this controllers communicates with others? So automotive, practically it will be on CAN most of the cases. while in case of energy storage, it goes on different. So while developing, one need to really understand that whether we should have all the communication in the same board or we should have a different boards, right? So likewise, one need to really understand how the applications are different, and based on that, the product need to be tailor-made for the application. I do understand that if you have to make a tailor-made application, there has to be significant volume which need to back it. But I believe over time we should go to that point, and unique product for unique application will be justified. Thank you.
Thanks, Chaitanya. I will move to Sahil now. Sahil, for the second and third question that you can see on screen, what do you think are the major challenges, for the BMS technology in the automotive space, and what will be your suggestion for the battery companies or the product companies regarding BMS selection? Over to you.
Thanks, Ben. So Chaitanya already covered one of the biggest challenges that we face, and I can completely resonate with that, which is the accuracy of the data that we receive, primarily from cell suppliers, and the application data from the customers. It's something that we do not receive most of the times, and that significantly impacts our ability to tune the BMS for that particular use case. And it eventually leads to inaccurate SOX algorithms and all, because you don't have that cell characterization or the cell data that is reliably available. So that's one thing that Chaitanya already covered. Apart from that, the biggest challenge that we've been facing is that the market is heavily driven by cost right now. So if you look at the Indian market, the volumes haven't really gone up yet, and it's already a very competitive landscape. Everyone is trying to sell out in the market over there. And you're seeing vehicles in the range of 50,000-60,000 rupees, which eventually forces most of these OEMs to compromise on the level of safety or the technology that you can give. So if you go and ask them, they want the best technology, but they're willing to pay $20-30 for a BMS. And most of the times you will see that they are not only not using the BMS, they're basically using a PCM in the name of a BMS. So PCM is a protection circuit module, and its primary function is simply to cut off the battery as soon as it goes outside of the safe operating area. So that's the biggest challenge that we've been facing, which is the market is driven by cost. Anyone selling cheaper automatically becomes the preferred supplier. Everyone wants features, but they're not necessarily willing to pay. So, they talk about paralleling, they talk about reserve mode, they talk about so many interesting features, but it's not impacting, they do not expect it to impact the prices. One more challenge is the standardization, which does not exist today. Each customer has its own, cluster matrix that they expect to incorporate in the BMS. Each customer is working with its own proprietary charger, and they ask us to implement that protocol on the BMS. So we've identified ways on how we can address these issues without having to redo the activity again and again. But even then, we see ourselves in a lot of conversation with customers wherein we have to implement their unique solution onto the BMS. And in general, because the market is so cost driven, they're not, the markets are not yet mature as compared to Europe. There's a general lack of or limited understanding when it comes to safety, functional safety, AECQ compliance and all of that, which if you go in the European or other markets, the conversation basically starts with what ASIL rating does your BMS have today. So in general, there is lack or limited understanding, but we believe that we will eventually get there as well. When it comes to recommendations for battery companies, right, what I had, my 2 cents is that, of course, cost is important. We know how cost conscious the Indian market is, but at the same time, it cannot come at the cost of, reliability and safety. You are solving for, BMS related problems. So, cutting off the battery whenever there is over or under voltage temperature current. But that's not the only thing that you need to solve for. There are other issues that currently get overlooked that we need to also address. For example, you need to tune the BMS for the operations that it's going to get used for. So whenever it comes to cell characterization based on the chemistry, the depth of discharge, the internal impedance, all of that needs to be fine-tuned. When it comes to integration or system level validation and testing, you need to understand pre-charge, load, and all of that, which you need to tune the BMS for. So right now, all of this is currently getting ignored. You need to identify what your application is, what are the failure parameters, and select a BMS that at least meets all of these basic requirements without putting the system at risk. That's what my 2 cents would be.
Thanks, Sahil. And I think we will move to Vinay now. Vinay, what are your opinions on the point number 2 and point number 3?
Right. So I think Chaitanya and Sahil have covered a fair amount of points. There might be some repetition in what I might mention. So broadly, if I look at it, maybe my answer would be a kind of a combination of the challenges and the recommendations. I think I look at it in 2 different buckets, right? One is BMS as the product, right? And the second is how do you tune a BMS for a specific battery pack, right? And I think the challenges that we face and the recommendations for a battery manufacturer or company for BMS selection would kind of fall in both buckets. Now, if you look at BMS as a product, and especially for the automotive space, and how does it differ from an energy storage system or something like that, I think 2 things come to my mind. One is for an automotive space, the number of transients are going to be a lot higher. So I think Chaitanya probably mentioned that you're going to have a lot more like a power pull in, power pull out, your pull in. If you have region braking, I think that's going to further increase the number of challenges you have. You're going to look at the current draw. Your currents could spike a lot. It could go up and down. Your temperatures are going to fluctuate a lot. You're going to be in a very noisy environment with a lot of vibrations, EMI, EMC, all of that, right? And if I look at BMS as a product, and for the automotive space, you need to make sure that the product is designed to take care of all of these things. And the level of reliability and fail-safe that it needs to have is a notch higher than an energy storage application. Because let's say if because of noise, there's a communication line which is not working anymore, or if there is in an accident, there's a wire which gets cut off. Let's say your temperature sensor wire gets cut off, right? So what do you do in all of those situations, right? And so I would say that the level of safety, the level of transients that you're designing the BMS for should be 1 notch or maybe several notches higher in the automotive space as you compare to a regular energy storage application. And along those lines, a battery manufacturer should be able to have those kinds of conversations, discussions, evaluation of the BMS as a product that they are choosing for an automotive application, to ensure at least the person has talked about these things. And there are certain fail-safe scenarios built in the product to account for this. Now, the second aspect is the tuning of it, right? So once you have this product, how do you tune it for a specific cell and for a specific battery pack? And I think both Sahil and Chaitanya have mentioned this point, which comes down to data, right? Data for your temperature against how much current you can pull, data for your number of cycles against the internal resistance, how much is it going to change? When do I kind of make this decision that this battery pack is not good, should not be used for the vehicle anymore because the resistance is just too high and it's now going to heat up if you use it. So all of these kinds of data is very crucial to make sure you're tuning a BMS for a particular cell and a battery pack, right? And yeah, I think this is, and yeah, I think it's quite a challenge today to get this level of data for the cells and for the battery pack to be able to tune a BMS today in the country. And yeah, I would say this is what are the challenges, and maybe those are the recommendations which battery companies need to think about when they are looking at BMS A as a product, and specifically for their particular battery pack and cell, how do you tune it for that?
Thanks, Vinay. Now I will request Anupam to go next for the same topic. Go ahead.
Yeah, so being last on the speaker panel will make me repeat most of what other people have said. But yeah, because we know the challenges are very similar. This cost thing, which all of our speakers have brought up, is a very relevant point. OEMs, say OEMs or maybe the end user, they want features, but their cost cap is fixed. The problem of fixing a cost cap and asking for features is that firstly you will give us subpar features, or secondly, like safety, like reliability, like all those things will severely get compromised. This cost, if people need, as people will understand, and as the market will go, people will have an understanding that feature versus cost analysis is the most critical thing. That has to be done very correctly, and without that, people will just churn up features like what Sahil has mentioned. Difference between a PCM and BMS, OEM needs to understand that. You can't expect to get the cost of a PCM and want features of a BMS. Those cannot be delivered. If you want to deliver it, there will be consequences, and the safety issues will be very relevant. About the data which people are talking about is also very relevant. See, when people do a BMS design, they need to get certain numbers in their mind for SOH calculation. Maybe some MIML stuff has to be run on backend to do a proper SOC estimation and stuff like that. Without proper data, what will happen? It would be a off the shelf, some kind of, there are multiple such methodologies written down somewhere in a paper. People will implement that without actually knowing what those implementations will lead up to. Data coming from the automobile industry, data coming from the end user is also required, because you have to continuously monitor your BMS. You have to continuously understand how to tune your BMS further so as to work and get the data incorporated in your system. All those things, till the market understands, till the end user understands, will be a problem. Another problem I was just thinking while the other people were talking, I was just thinking this problem of binning. These cells which are coming right now are not binned properly. So the balancing is a very important thing that has to be taken into account. I've read some paper of Nissan or whoever has published that there was a, in general sense, a 5% difference in the SOH is a general 10 people give 2 to 5% difference. This 2 to 5% difference in common terms may seem very small, but when you make a whole design with a bin, with a cell which have a 2 to 5% difference in their SOH, the amount of energy coming out will be determined by the cells which has the least SOH, provided you are not doing any balancing. Obviously, people do balancing, and that's not the case. But those are things that people have to understand. A normal PCM is not able to do that. A BMS is supposed to do that. So if you want to compare apples with oranges, that will not happen. That's one of the biggest problem. And I think as the market gets matured, I think this problem will get sorted, and yeah, people will understand.
Thanks, Anupam. I think it's fair to say that being on last on the panel, round robin, you are let me reverse the I would say the cycle then. The fourth question is basically what are the major advancements, technology advancements you are aware of as far as battery management systems are concerned, and what are the trends which you foresee and would like to share, which are excited about? And I think let us start, in the reverse order. I will ask Anupam to go first. So regarding first question, Anupam, go ahead.
So yeah, thank you for letting me speak first. But yeah, that was just a joke I was just making. But yeah, about the technology advancement, what we feel right now is that maybe there has to be focus given on the technology. You have to have a proper innovation plan about what is being designed. You have to have a proper understanding that this is the BMS. All the traditional approaches of how the BMSs were made, maybe those were not the correct approaches. I'll just quote something. If you take a normal TI wala my semiconductor chip, that has a balancing of, if I'm not wrong, about 30 milliamperes or something, and that happens at the end of cycle. You understand if there is a difference, 30 milliamperes in a, say, a 2 ampere hour cell, you understand what is the ratio and what kind of balancing will be done. So even if there is a 2% difference, the amount of time that will take to balance out that 2% difference and keep that balance will be a huge task. So people, because we don't know the difference, again I'm reiterating, between a PCM and a BMS, this kind of balancing architecture where you only want to balance 30 milliamperes at the end of cycle will not fly. If the cells are not properly bent, they are not sent to us correctly. I believe balancing is one thing that has to be given full focus on. Safety is a very important thing. All the ISIL safety parameters, the AIS 156, and all the other parameters that are right now being implemented, that has to be implemented very stringently. All the safety issues that have recently been kept creeping up. See, very correctly speaking, maybe not all the issues that are creeping up are just because of the BMS. Most of the thermal runaways may happen just because of the cells, and maybe the BMS will not be capable to anything apart from just sensing and saying here there is a thermal issue. But maybe saving a thermal runaway will not fall under the scope of a BMS. But still, all those things have to be considered. How best we can improve the safety features, how quickly can we extract the data, how quickly the BMS can, the firmware or the application layer firmware, how the application layer firmware has to be designed, how fast it has to be designed so as to detect the short circuit fault, how fast it has to be designed to react to thermal runaways and stuff like that. Maybe that's one of the things that we should look into. Focus has to be given on safety and reliability. And yes.
Thanks, Anupam. I think it really helped to start first, because we have shared really good insights here. I will now request Vinay. Vinay, if you can basically share your views. What, according to you, are the emerging trends in BMS technology, and what will be your recommendations around that?
Okay. So I think we'll kind of flip the question, maybe talk first about the problems faced in startups, and then how some of the advancements maybe could be used to both solve them and where we can go beyond that as well, right? I think if I look at, let's focus on India, because that's largely the participant list. If I look at the problems today, I broadly see on the lines of charging, I think there is still a lot of challenges when it comes to uncontrolled charging, right? And the BMS does have to play a role there in terms of making sure that the charging that is happening for a particular pack is controlled, is kind of designed the way it was supposed to be charged, those kinds of things. Second, I see is there is still maybe monitoring of temperature, but I still don't, one of the problems is controlling a battery pack when a temperature is going to shoot a certain limit. So there's a lot of monitoring happening. We are looking at it, but still it's very reactive. It's not very predictive. You're not actually predicting that a temperature is going to shoot beyond a certain value. It's going to touch a thermal runaway condition, and then turning off the battery pack way before you reach that point. Because more often than not, a reactive approach to this would not work. If you have a single threshold, and if you say that once it reaches that threshold, you shut off the BMS, sometimes that might not work because that is very dependent on your ambient conditions and those kinds of things. So at this point, I still see that there is a lot of monitoring that is happening for the temperature on the BMS, but it is not still very predictive and figuring out how, when to turn off. The third is, again, this whole lack of data. I think we're kind of buying cells from somewhere. We are building a pack at the second place, and then we are buying a BMS from the third place, and then just putting them all together. And there is really no tuning that is happening for a particular cell, a particular battery pack, and a BMS, which kind of matches very well with the pack and the cell, right? And I think we spoke in the previous answer about the kind of data, the variety of data. Several other panelists mentioned that as well. And I think that is a pressing challenge today. I think I would say that the startups are really struggling getting the level of data that is needed to build a really safe, efficient battery management system and a battery pack, right? And I think, yeah, that is another area where it's a problem, and we are seeing slow advances, but maybe it should pick up pace too. So if I have to probably just kind of pick 3 points, this would be the 3 points which I would say as problems being faced in startups, and maybe where some of the advancements in the BMS technology has to be. Of course, there are more, further advancements, if you see globally in terms of wireless sensing and all these kinds of things. I think those are all added kind of cherry in the cake, which would keep happening as the technology matures. But I think at this point, we are still at quite the ground level where there's a lot of key pieces which has to be in place and a lot of key technology which has to be in place to make the product safer, efficient, and well designed to use before we go to more advanced kind of technologies that exist out there globally as well. So yeah, this is what I would say are problems being faced in the startups, and maybe some of the good advancements that I am seeing happening in that direction, both in terms of awareness of these problems and then kind of figuring out how to solve some of these things.
Thanks, Vinay. I think you shared some of very interesting, I would say, possibilities. And I'm very sure that others which are thinking in making next level of battery packs and using next level of technologies will really think through. And whenever you are reaching out to or speaking to each other for possibilities, the mindset is in the same direction. It's not surprising, or it's not outrageously outwardly for the other person to understand what is going on. So one of the reasons we are doing these sessions is to give a platform to all of us which are into deep tech, so that all our discussions can be, we can come together and share this in advance, so that whenever our companies, our members are speaking to each other, they are in a frame of mind which is meaningful. Thanks, Vinay. I will move to Sahil now. Sahil, what do you think are the advancements in BMS technology which you would like to share? Over to you.
Yeah, so at present, because we are seeing a lot of these players use PCM, we believe that their advancement is having with them moving away from PCM to an actual BMS. So the primary problem that these PCMs have is that there is no CAN or data logging capability, right? So whenever you have any incident that happens, there's no way to identify what led to that incident. So one of the major things that we're seeing is an inclination of these OEMs to have something that logs data, even if it is for 3 to 6 months. And then finding a way to extract that data from the BMS into a software that enables them to do root cause analysis. This is quite important, because if you're not even able to identify the issue, you don't know what to solve for. You don't know why exactly batteries and vehicles are failing. So one of the major advancements that we're seeing is customers wanting to move towards something that can log data, and you can extract this data over CAN. There are, of course, a bunch of other features as well that customers request. When I already mentioned about, how you need to be, you cannot just be reactive, right? So for example, we implement something similar to called temperature-based derating, wherein based on the temperature increase, you start reducing the amount of current that the battery discharges. So this is a very simple example of how you solve for a problem of increased temperatures. The second is, each customer having its own cluster matrix, for example. We've implemented something called configurable CAN that allows the customer to basically change the CAN IDs. So these are some ways in which we are solving problems, and customers are looking at it as features that are necessary from a BMS technological advancement standpoint. When it comes to startups and what challenges they are typically facing, I just wanted to highlight two primary ones. The first one is, from a talent standpoint, the industry is still niche. There are very few people who are experienced on the BMS and, in general electric vehicles, which makes it very difficult for them to get up to speed with everything that they have to build and deploy in the market. So, even Ion Energy as a 5-year-old startup, we also face this challenge of hiring good talent who have experience on BMSs and similar technologies. So that's one tricky piece that limits our ability to go to market fast. And then it also compromises on some of the testing and validation that we have to do. So the second point is around testing and validation. We are seeing a lot of OEMs, including mature ones, not knowing exactly how to test and validate the product before deploying in the market. The extensive amount of testing, the standards, the protocols that you need to follow. So, back then when we started, we used to conduct testing in, probably 1 to 2 month cycle. But right now, after all the experience that we've received from the market, our testing cycle basically ranges from 3 to 6 months at least. So it has increased because our experience around deployments have increased, and we know what are the challenges that come up. So startups are, relatively new. They might not have the resources, the bandwidth, or the talent to, at present, conduct the extensive testing that's required before deploying these vehicles on the road. So that's one thing that we need to solve for by building a much stronger community that enables us to share information as well.
Thanks, Sahil. I think you mentioned many interesting points. Testing part is something which is obviously close to even Micelio, while we provide equipment to startups. Otherwise expenses are expensive, and as you said, talent is not there. So we have an engineering team which helps startups in acquiring not only equipment but the expertise in the direction. And not only external testing situations. You are right that all of these companies which are developing or dealing with deep tech should have in-house capabilities and more seriousness around testing and validating, because anyone who is starting any business or any startup in automotive space, it is not like consumer electronics. You have to have 10 times more sure how safe your product is, how well you are aligned to the commitments which you have made as far as spec and integration is concerned. Thanks, Sahil. I will now go to Chaitanya. Chaitanya, what are
Yeah.
your on the advancements and the future trends of the BMS technology? Over to you.
Okay. Yeah. So, but most of the points are covered. But coming to the second part of the question first. So, startups, I do understand that startup need to be very fast, agile to come to market. However, while doing that, they really need to understand that there is nothing plug and play. So they can't get something just plug in and system will work. So they really need to understand that if at all they're looking at talking to BMS supplier, sales supplier, they need to prepare a detailed questionnaire, what is exactly required, and then they need to talk to us or any other supplier. Only then they can get a right support. Otherwise, they'll get something which is either on the higher side of the requirement or lower side. So this is one thing. So I second to Sahil's view about the resources. So getting a resource is a huge challenge. So startup really need to understand how do we bridge that gap. In terms of coming back to the first part of the question, so what advancement? So we actually, while coming to India, we have a software with which we can configure the BMS. So one thing what industry should look at is how do we make BMS more configurable, more flexible to adapt different requirements. So I mean, I keep on getting a request saying that we need a LFP BMS for 48 volt and some specific current. So which we don't do. So what we provide is a open BMS which customer can configure for their requirement at their end. So that's something I believe industry will do over next few years. Apart from that, what we are looking at is how do we create even a component level specification and tailor made those components for us. So we will make BMS for customer, but we'll ask our supplier to tailor made components for us. Okay, this is one area I think which will be significantly important in future, because that will give that BMS manufacturer an edge over any other. Second is different standards which we need to meet. Like for example, it could be MSIL for two-wheeler application or specifically for industrial application. So likewise, it will come. Third is more of a long term, wherein we need to look at how do we, let's say, reduce burden on the BMS side. So can we move that data on the, let's say, server and get, let server decide and then communicate to BMS. At present, there are a lot of challenges, but I believe over time it should be solved. Okay, so these are some of the area which I feel we need to work on in future, and which will help us to have a better product for which will meet the industry requirement. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chaitanya. With this, we conclude our panel discussion on all the topics. There are a couple of questions. I think Sujoy from one of our members have asked, does active balancing add any value to the BMS, considering the cost delta increase? Is it value for money? This is a question from Sujoy. Any panelists would like to take a shot at it to answer?
I don't mind answering that, but I think probably Anupam would be a better person because IgrenEnergi explores active, passive, or something hybrid in the space. So Anupam, you want to go first, maybe?
Yeah. So thanks, Sahil. So yeah, what I wanted to say is apart from the cost and everything, another important thing that we need to understand is the moment you are talking about active balancing, you are increasing the electronics on the card. And as we all know, the more electronics is there, the more electronics on the system of the BMS, the more power it will consume. So for us, what we believe is that it is good to have, it is as a technology or as a research document, active balancing is good. But when you want to implement it in the real life scenarios, the more kind of active balancing you go into, the more costly. Obviously, everyone knows about it. But the important thing, the losses will increase it will increase to a position where the sleep current and other currents, you will just self-discharge on your own because you are putting some kind of extra electronics on the BMS. So this is our first order analysis on why active balancing may not fly, but others, I am open to answers from others.
Yeah. So if I may add here, so see, we cannot generalize whether active. I mean, in my opinion, it's very difficult to generalize whether active balancing will be useful or not. So there could be two scenarios where we are looking at 100 amps battery pack. With one cell, probably active balancing might be good, but with multiple cell, it or one cell, let's see, 100 Ah cell. But if you're looking at multiple cell, then it probably may not help. We also need to understand the complexity involved in the design, right? As Anupam rightly mentioned, if there are more components on board, more chances of failure and less the reliability. This is one. Third is the improvement which is happening in the passive balancing. So obviously the algorithms on the balancing are improving. So what we are, I mean, if you look at our product, the Gen 1 product used to have 840 milliamps of balancing current. Now it has gone to 200. So if it goes on improving, I believe we can still live with passive balancing, but for large cell based pack, there might be a case where active balancing will help. Okay, but then we also need to look at what is the balancing time required or how's the process for the balancing. So all this put together, one need to really understand. As far as lithium balance product line is concerned, we primarily use passive balancing. We have evaluated active, but as of now, we will stick to passive balancing for all of our BMS.
Thanks, Ganya. And I think I hope Sujoy has got his answer for the active balancing and the benefits. If there are any other questions to the panelists, I will welcome the attendees to ask or type in the chat box.
So Hiten, if you don't mind, I have a question for Micelio. Because you guys are so well connected in the industry and you speak with a lot of startups as well as established OEMs, you have a good sense of where the market is going, what other trends, what technologies are coming up. So just wanted to get a very high level perspective as to how you are looking at the market, especially with the recent incidents that we've seen, and where do you guys see the market going towards?
Thanks, Sahil. From our side, obviously, Micelio is a neutral platform, and we engage with more than 125 members we have, and many of them are here today in the session. Our objective is to basically enable awareness of cost benefit, doing technology development in-house or going for off-shelf product. There are various angles and aspects to it. Like there are some problems which all of you who are BMS developers, manufacturers, and companies have identified that usually people are not aware that the cost benefit versus the safety. These are some areas where the company should be more open to invest. And these learnings are what Micelio is trying to collate and translate and provide in a structural format to emerging startups. So if a vehicle manufacturer or a battery manufacturer is starting up and the founders are speaking to us, and it's like a very friendly discussion, our attempt is to present them all the information in a neutral fashion without endorsing or sponsoring anyone, giving them true facts that in case you are pursuing a good product, there is a cost implication, yes, because you all are starting, all volumes are low. But if you are absorbing it with larger volumes, the cost will go down. The BMS supplier will be more happier to work for customization. But when you all have said the same thing, that lack of standardization. Standardization happens either through government enforcing a standard or the industry coming up and evolving naturally on its own. We believe in the latter part, although we would like to work with governments also, but our interest, or I would say we believe in that if out of 120 companies, 25 companies which are member with us, say even half of them agree on certain common parts or similar specifications, it will make life easier for all of you who are in manufacturers of components. If everybody gives you SORs which are similar, or which are under some boundary conditions, which will have lesser variables, naturally the cost will go down, and the features will be remain, because you will not see a wide variety of asks. You will see only few deviations company to company, and all the learnings which all you have shared today, these will be documented, these will be disseminated, and shared with the future companies who are joining us and existing members who could not join today. We will send emails, we will share the learnings with them, and idea is in the next 6 months, in next 12 months, time to come, the general acceptance of features, like I was telling to Vinay also, that our attempt is that when you speak to your possible future customers and you talk about various newer emerging, I would say, features, it should not be seen as an alien technology. It should be seen something which they already have read, they are aware of it, now they are keen on trying it out. So our, I would say, feedback here would be that yes, there's a mixed bag. So there are some companies which are highly knowledgeable. We have come across many members of us and many, I would say, participants in the community which are having good teams. They understand every bit of technology they are working with, but there's a still major chunk of startups which are just building their teams, and they are seeking help from not only their partners but also suppliers like yours to see how things can move faster. And what our attempt would be as a community enabler is to document and make it as a process, so that it is a lesser burden on BMS manufacturers also to keep on spreading the awareness. Many of you are already doing great job in as far as awareness is concerned through your newsletters, through your events. We are trying to augment and magnify the efforts so that the larger set of companies can see that, and if a neutral entity does it, the impact is at another level. So with that, first of all, thanks Sahil for your question. I'm very happy that all of us could come together today. I thank all of the panelists for sharing the time, sharing their thoughts, and we will move now towards the next section, which is the product demo. I think there is one question from, or some comment from Yasser. Yasser, would you like to go ahead and ask your question directly? I see your text, but it is too large to repeat.
Yeah, sure. If my audio is clear.
Yeah, it is. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just a question to the panelists in general. My experience of looking the Chinese ecosystem was for the good quality manufacturers was that they have a lot of players in very specific verticals, all collaborating together, and then the ecosystem is pretty large. So, I mean, we are in India relatively new. So, and then if we do develop certain things, then still it takes testing, and then we all make mistakes and we have to fix it. So how can we accelerate that part, given we are relatively new on this? Is there a possibility of like getting more technology accessed from foreign companies or something?
Yeah, so Yasser is from Electric Motors, one of our members. So question is open to all the panelists. Anyone can respond.
Yeah, can I maybe take a shot at it?
Go ahead, Vinay.
All right. So yeah, I think if I have to maybe share my perspectives on what I had seen maybe a decade ago in the US on how these technologies were kind of conceived, developed, and matured there versus what I see here. I think your question is, could we bring in technology from an external country and then probably try to bring it in, kind of get it in India? You could do that, but again, I think if we go back to our initial conversation on localization, we're going to kind of fall short on a lot of maybe aspects, parameters, etc., which we might need to address to make the product robust for Indian markets, Indian ecosystems, etc. A better way to do that and to accelerate would be to probably get some of the learnings which other countries have faced. What are some of the challenges that they went through? What are some of the kind of roadblocks that they got through in technology, etc.? And probably bringing that level of maybe talent from there, learnings from there, certain educative aspects from there, and maybe making sure we don't make those same mistakes again over here, right? And we kind of focus on certain new pieces that we have to do for the Indian ecosystem for localization, but maybe we can cut short some of the other things which would have already happened before, and where they've learned from it and where they've kind of improved the product moving forward. We just take those learnings, those improvements, but still focus on building technology for Indian ecosystem. And I believe that that would at least accelerate to an extent where we're not making the same mistakes they did. We're kind of ahead of that. And maybe anything that we do now is just to kind of localize it for India, right? Some of the new learnings because of Indian challenges. I think that would be my take to kind of address this question and maybe figure out how to accelerate technology for this in India.
Thanks, Vinay. Any other panelists would like to respond?
Yeah, so I just wanted to chime in. I think we definitely need to solve for India. You cannot just bring in an external technology and expect it to work in India. There are a lot of caveats, and you need to work towards understanding that and solving for it. One more thing that could potentially accelerate this is by partnering with companies that could act as the drivers of change. These are companies that have the capability to turn the tide. When they come into the market, their volumes start at 50,000, 100,000. That's the capability that they have in the first year itself. So when you partner with these companies, you can work towards some level of standardization. Of course, at that level, government intervention, no matter how much we want to avoid the government, I think the government intervention becomes really important as well. And I think we're also seeing some partnerships that recently happened between Honda, Yamaha, and the others. I could be wrong about the companies that I'm naming, but 5 companies coming together, forming a partnership in order to standardize for the market. So these type of partnerships or partnering with global OEMs that could bring in the tide could also accelerate what type of standardization the market could go towards.
Thanks, Sahil. I think there's one more question from Vineet. Vineet is asking what dynamics have emerged towards standardization from industry and government after the incident of Ola scooter in Pune catching fire. So that is a question from Vineet Kapoor. Any panelists would like to answer this?
I can go again.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I think the dynamics are going to be probably the next step. But one thing I've seen, at least in the last few weeks since the incident happened, is a lot of talk about safety, a lot of talk about, what's the root cause of this? How do we make sure this doesn't happen? Because at the end of the day, the ecosystem is something which all of us have to support. If these things kind of hinder the market, I mean, if people stop buying it because now they're afraid of these kinds of incidents, all of us go down with it. So I think I've now at least seen an acute level of awareness, an acute kind of interest in addressing safety, probably putting certain cost aspects aside and trying to think about how do we make things more safer, etc. I think the next level now is going to be like the dynamics, the standards, etc., which I think would have now come in, at least because there's awareness, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of safety in this aspect. So I think this would be my observation and maybe what I would feel would happen in the coming maybe weeks, months.
Thanks, Vinay.
Yeah, interestingly, just before I joined the Micelio meet, I saw a tweet from Bhavesh Agarwal wherein he met Nitin Gadkari. And, they discussed about the recent incident and what Ola is doing. So the dynamics, I think, are still getting established, but the government definitely seems to be taking note of these incidents. And hopefully we should be seeing some policy interventions coming from the government side. Right now, whatever we comment, it would mostly be speculation because, there hasn't been an official statement from the government. But definitely the government is speaking to stakeholders in the industry to understand what it can do without significantly impacting or taking the industry back to where it was, but rather helping them progress further with the right intervention.
Thanks, Sahil. See, 2 cents from my side. I think there are a couple of agencies which the government has aligned, but obviously it's just a start. I hope good will come out of it. And if you look at the incidents of fires in general automotive space, there are plenty of diesel and petrol and CNG vehicles which keep on getting fire everywhere. It's a matter of, I'm not discounting the fact that the quality and the technology improvement is needed, but the probability in itself cannot be zero. There might be a number of other reasons. Even other vehicles are burning, in some cases exploding. I have not seen any, at least a EV vehicle exploding. No, there are fires, yes, but I would still think that electric vehicle is still safer than a petrol vehicle catching fire and exploding and damaging things around it. See, part and parcel of any tech development, even even ISRO and SpaceX had their rockets blasting up in the first few products they launched. So it is okay, but what we can do is basically keep on increasing the quality of the technology and reduce the possibilities and reduce the degree or the graveness of the incidents which we see. So to see how the fire can be controlled in case it happens, how it can be made lesser riskier if we cannot control the external runaway, how it can be made to happen in a way that which gives time. That is something which BMSs can do. To give time to the operator to have a safe space, rather than a sudden explosion or fire which can happen while you're driving the vehicle. So every second counts, and all these technologies which all of you good companies are developing can really help. In the last panel discussion, we had the CEO of Exide with us, and he shared that they also have certain technologies in their BMS which is capable of doing so. I'm very sure that many of you also have it, and that can be one way to avoid the loss of life, at least, if not the loss of material. So with that, we will conclude our panel discussion. I thank all of the panelists today to share your views and make the time for us. I'm very sure that the videos which we will release will be great for the future referrals and the learning for the other members who join us, who are already there. Now we will move towards the demo session from a couple of partners which we have, starting from Altair. Altair has brought in very interesting aspects around BMS, battery safety, thermal management, and I will request the Altair team to basically present their screen and walk us through their presentation. Okay, maybe we can allow the screen sharing.
I'll mute myself.
Okay.
No, it's mute. It's mute.
Go ahead.
Hello all. I'm Kamlesh, and I work as a business development manager for CFD and thermal solutions for Altair, covering India and Gulf. So thanks for the opportunity, and a very good afternoon to all of you. And I'll be covering a bit on electrification and different solutions offering from Altair, and most probably the entire solution for BMS. Of course, I normally start with the agenda just to give a heads up of what I'm going to talk about. So I think the first one is almost covered for last 1 hour, so
I'll ensure that I'll skip most of it. Then the operation and advantages of BMS. Oh. Then I would put some causes of battery fire, which is some of the incidents which is on news all over, and how Altair plays an important role in BMS and thermal management, and of course recommendation of BMS. So it will be most of the repetitive what the panelists have spoken, but the solution what we offer would be a slightly different thing. And I've taken a liberty to show some of the CFD thermal offerings from Altair as well, which is equal importance for a complete vehicle, including battery thermal, motor thermal, etc. Okay, so I'll carry on with what is BMS. I think everyone in the meeting is aware of it. So I would just like to say that it's a system control unit, which is modeled to confirm the operational safety of the system battery pack and maximize the performance. But it is more to it. I'm gonna show it because that the complete monitoring, the complete protection, the complete charging, discharging, the communication between different electronic controls, the complete diagnosis of the battery, which includes SOC, SOH, etc. The complete data management, which is necessary for the performance efficiency of the vehicle. Everything comes from BMS. So this BMS, there was a session in the earlier thing that there was a discussion that how we should be able to monitor, and most importantly, how we would be able to validate it as well. So that's the solution what Altair gives in. So normally the operation inside a vehicle comes from the BMS, from the accelerator, from the electronic control unit. Then it diagnoses the battery performance, go to the power converter from the motor, and then it senses the complete communication on board, another thing, and from of course the mechanical drive and for the vehicle as well. So all these sort of communication needs to be controlled. The performance needs to be estimated, completely monitored, completely diagnosed using the BMS system. So normally, from Altair point of view, the solution offerings, we normally divide it from technical, operational, and of course economical point of view, because everything ends in a business. So the technical point of it, of course, prevent damage with very high voltage, or the cell balancing which is required, or the limited charge of current as well. Then complete operational, which is most important, minimize thermal runaway and safety and reliability. And economic is of course low cost. So people normally electric vehicle manufacturers, there's safety and the economical things which is required to ensure the safety is also goes for a toss. So these all three important steps are required to entirely maintain the battery management system. So I will mostly speak about the causes which I think is already discussed in the panel discussion, but I'll just run through it. Some of the important points. So faulty electrical and mechanical design. This is a very debatable statement, but this is one of the design validation and tuning is particularly necessary for the BMS, which means how much load it can manage, how it will monitor, how it will diagnose, and etc. Then of course the production quality. I do understand that the manufacturing of these systems is very niche, and it requires a lot of technology and precision to manufacture these kind of things. And of course battery monitoring, I'm going to speak a lot about it in the coming slides. Complete discharging and overcharging, what's the defect, we would be able to cover that. Environmental conditions with higher temperature, high summer picking up, people don't realize. So technologically people don't realize as well. So most of them think it's due to high summer the battery is not able to do. It's not the case, but again environmental conditions as well, short circuit, mechanical shocks, and most importantly thermal management, which plays an important role. So So that was just a cover, so I just ran it up. So how Altair plays a role in the battery management system, and basically to optimize the performance and enhance safety. So electrification solutions. So Altair is basically a software and engineering solutions and consulting company. We do have a lot of solution offerings in different fields, starting from structural, electromagnetic, CFD, thermal, and we also have a consulting division as well. So we started as a pre-processing company with Hypermesh as a flagship product, particularly for structural, for crash and VH fatigue. Then we eventually ventured out into fluid and thermal management, then system modeling, e-motor design, e-battery design, electronic system. So I would be covering mostly on the system modeling, fluid and thermal management, a single slide on electronic systems, and battery design as well. So the e-motor design, particularly we do have a solution offering from an electromagnetic software called Flux, which is a low frequency electromagnetic tool used to design the e-motor. It can also do vibroacoustic analysis, and we do offer a complete multi-physics platform for it. Battery design, it's a huge responsibility. I do understand, and being a part of Altair, I think I would say a liberty that I would rather say that nobody is perfect yet. So everyone is on the learning mode, everyone is on the research mode, everyone is on the testing mode. So we are just contributing a bit of what we can do on the battery design. System controls and integration and electronics, major stuff to BMS on how the state of health, state of charge can be predicted. The complete full system modeling is available. Okay, so of course there were a lot of challenges which were spoken between design and how it's going to function. So we exactly fall in between. Say once you design it, we also help in designing. But how to validate it? There was a question how to validate it even before it gets into prototyping. Say you have a design and you want to fine tune your product. This is the solution what Altair gives in with respect to battery design and with respect to BMS system as well. So if you entirely see this, we can do a system level simulation or a single product level simulation as well. So complete cooling cycle, complete state of discharge, what is the voltage coming in, what is the state of charge coming in, the current module, what is the maximum temperature it's going to attain. Everything can be covered using a particular software. I am going to talk about it. I'm going to show you some of the pictures. It's public as well. And the solution what we offer for that is Activate, which is battery pack system behavior, which includes multi-physics. It has hybrid system signals, complete physical libraries, Modelica, Hyperspice. Then we have Compose, where you can put in some scripts for cell model parameters, and you can go on with the complete behavior of the cell. Then the hardware, so functional mockup units. If you wanna, write a code for your BMS as well, and how it's going to function, how to fine tune it, how to validate it. Okay, we offer that solution as well. Then most importantly, we help you in the design decisions even before it gets into prototyping, and optimize the performance and verify the critical safety requirements, which is particularly required for BMS. Okay, now this is a public example which we are working with a EV startup, and this is available in Altair website. So I just took out a picture. So this is available in Altair website. There is a charger on load. You can see a lot of cylindrical cells attached to the BMS. There's a lot of connectors, and what we have is an Altair Embed GUI. This is our solution what we offer. We verify and we fine tune the complete BMS solution for a different set of series or parallel sort of battery loads which is required. What is the state of charge? What is the voltage it can manage? What is over fluctuating? Whether the cell performance is going for a toss, complete voltage, complete charger, everything we would be able to analyze and set, and it will also help you design the BMS according to your battery specification also, and vice versa as well. Okay, so you might have designed a complete battery with respect to the series loading or the parallel loading with the serial link between your BMS. So we offer a software which can particularly link with your testing parameters and help you recalibrate or revalidate your BMS with respect to your battery pack. Okay, so that's embed, and most importantly, what is the custom solutions you want to get developed? So it can be an integrated development in order to perform complete set of tasks to achieve a final design. It can be anything. It can be cell temperature as a variable, how the cell is behaving, what is the state of health, what is the state of charge, what is the number of cells, whether some cells is shooting up, some reactions are happening, what is the voltage, what is the voltage fluctuation. So different set of measurements. If there is any hotspots coming in, we would be able to analyze that and identify the fault if it's there, and integrate this BMS with our software solutions what we offer. Okay, of course, the most important stuff, charging and discharging. So take any battery pack with a particular BMS which is designed to calibrate it. The complete controller which is developed in Embed with respect to the software coding, what we do it, and it's vice versa as well. And you can integrate with the different battery pack design as well. Okay, so you would be able to completely control it, and we help in validating the controller and as well as the complete charger and loader. So battery thermal management. So this is my favorite topic. I come from a CFD thermal background. Of course, addressing key challenges, BMS do play an important role. So analyzing the performance, what is the temperature, any hotspot, how does the performance compare to different iterations, how long it is gonna take it, then what is the performance of a product, whether it meets your specified targets, it meets your efficiency. So how does CFD would help you in that. So we do have a complete battery module within our software solutions, and it is a general purpose code, but of course we have developed certain niche charging and discharging cycle for the battery to be this is a public model which is around 560 lithium ion cells. Different outflow temperature, pressure drop variations, result you can verify where the hotspot is, complete heat dissipation, total heat balance performing, and for complete active cooling, predict how much how the temperature of the battery pack is, whether the coolant is taking away the heat, ensuring that your battery pack is at a proper temperature. Okay, so you would be able to do that. Then complete charging and discharging cycle of a battery with respect to your initial state of charge. Then with the current being supplied to it, what are the thermal loads, what is the ambient conditions. Humidity also plays an important role. We if it's say in Chennai it's humid, Mumbai it's humid, so you would be able to put in humidity as a factor as well. Not much, but of course humidity as a factor, and you would be able to ambient temperature modeling. You can also input solar radiation as a factor and analyze the exact battery performance. This is of course with respect to a battery pack or a particular BMS. I'm also going to show you example of certain battery casing optimization, and I'll also show you example of a complete vehicle EV development with a public example from two of the prominent EV startups in Bangalore. Then battery casing optimization, if you want to optimize it with with respect to your battery pack design with temperature as a variable, you can design accordingly, ensure that the temperature of your cells are lesser or the cooling is much faster, there is no recirculation of air, ensuring that the air is taking away the heat. So we would be able to help you in that. We also offer electronic thermal management. We have an electroflow which is particularly designed for electronic PCBs, system level thermal analysis as well, giving voltage as an input. So there are different solutions. I don't want to confuse people with a particular name, but just Altair solutions for different applications. So we would be able to help you in a complete PCB thermal environment, identify the copper layers or vias, change electronic design. So we would be able to help you in the complete electronic thermal management as well. Some of the recommendations from BMS, from according to me and some of my colleagues, we have put it. Of course, you guys are expert on it, but just to put my views on it. So it can be anything. It can be structural, different types of parameters, the coefficient of sensor, the positive temperature coefficient sensor, then the motor driving as well, which pass on the supply, and how much load the BMS can manage, the complete integration with the safety vents, the shutdown separators. If these goes for a toss, say the temperature of the battery is increasing and it's not working out, of course it is gonna increase the temperature at some point of time. It is gonna get into an incident. So complete mechanical system design, thermal, right cool design, microcontroller heating. So it's not limited. It's just my points. I think it was mostly discussed in the panel. Then I have taken a liberty to show some of the Altair safety thermal solutions for electrification. So Akisol is a general purpose code, particularly for battery thermal management, which I've already shown. Then Ultrafluidics for complete aerodynamics and aeroacoustics, fan noise as well. It is a lattice Boltzmann code. Nanofluidics, EV gearbox oiling. It's a meshless CFD software. Complete water weighting. Then electroflow, electronic thermal management. These are some of the case study which I was talking about. One is ultraviolet, and I'm thankful to them, Ultraviolet and Simple Energy. We had a virtual conference where they presented. This is a snap of it. The complete video recording from Ultraviolet and Simple Energy on how they have utilized Altair CFD solutions is available on website, Altair website. So Ultraviolet completely uses Altair CFD for aerodynamics, battery pack cooling, and Simple Energy has gone up and complete product development cycle of their electric two-wheeler, including PCB thermal, motor thermal, aerodynamics, and battery thermal. Actually, BMS as well has been customized completely on Altair CFD solutions. Then these are some of the EV gearbox oiling and water weighting cases for a electric motorbike as well, because this is one of the most important tests what an electric two-wheeler or electric four-wheeler are going through. Some of the Nexon vehicles on EV were recalled back because of their water clogging issues. So they are performing the water weighting simulations to identify the water clogging areas on the EV, whether the electronic components or a battery are affected or not. So this is my last slide. So Altair completely provides on battery thermal, BMS, motor multiphysics, aero, underhood, water weighting, headlamp, humidity compensation, and electronic thermal management. Thank you. And any questions, I'm open to it.
Thanks, Kamleshwar. If there are any questions for Altair team here, the panel, the podium is open. Okay, great. So we will basically, we wait for all the questions in case you have. Do feel free to basically ask in the comment section, or we will ask Kamleshwar to reach out to all of you one by one in case you have any further queries or interest with respect to Altair. We have been working with Altair, and you can engage with Poonam from our team in case you are curious on exploring the tools which you have seen today. With that, thanks Kamleshwar for your presentation. Now I will request Sahil and IgrenEnergi team, Sahil basically, to basically share his screen and walk through various BMS products and is now working on and would like to present to our community. Over to you, Sahil.
Thanks again, Athen. So I am going to give a very brief overview on the product and the platforms that we have, including some of the new product launches that we have coming up. But I wanted to basically start with where ION sees itself in the market and the market gaps that we've observed that resulted in the products that we are developing today and in the future as well. So I'm assuming all of you can see my screen.
Yes.
So starting with the mission, right? So ION's mission is to accelerate the Earth's transition to an all-electric future. We've been working on advanced electronics, primarily the BMS, over the last 10 years. Even though we are a relatively new company, we acquired a French company back in 2018 that has been working on the BMS since 2011. So the idea is to enable companies, startups to leverage what we have built over the years instead of reinventing the wheel, because we have products and solutions that are mature enough to be deployed in large volumes. So like I said, founded in 2016, relatively new startup. We are a technology company building advanced electronics and software for companies making transition to new energies. At present, we have two business verticals. Maxwell is the name that you will hear moving forward, which is the advanced electronics vertical for EVs and ESS, where the proprietary product is the smart battery management system. We also have another vertical called Altago, which was previously called Edison. This is the data science and machine learning platform for new energy assets. It's agnostic of the BMS and the underlying asset. The idea is to basically understand how different assets are performing, primarily lithium-ion batteries, by sending data to the cloud and using the cloud computational power to generate insights. So starting with, why BMS and software? So ION as a company, and Hiten knows this personally, we started off with trying to become a battery pack maker. We built India's first portable swappable battery pack. And then, we soon realized that the core differentiation between two battery companies will not come unless they differentiate on the BMS and software, because the cells come from the same suppliers. And then the pack assembly is mostly, operational and manufacturing heavy. So we identified where exactly the core differentiation would come from, and BMS being the brain of the battery, and software, of course, being on the cloud, and having the computational power of the cloud along with, the resources you could optimize the battery pack using BMS and software. So that's how our focus shifted to BMS and software, and that's what we continue to do, along with some other advanced electronics that are currently underway, including the telematics control unit. From a BMS standpoint, this is how we basically see the BMS and the evolution that's happening. On the leftmost side, you basically see the BMS hardware. This is mostly a PCM or a protection circuit module that's simply designed with hard-coded values to cut off the battery as soon as the battery goes outside of its safe operating area. What we are seeing is market moving towards something slightly more complex, wherein you have BMSs with data logging capabilities. You have a microcontroller, you have CAN-based communication that allows you to not only log the data from the battery, but also send that data either wired or wirelessly in order to visualize it on a platform in order to do diagnostics and troubleshooting. What we're also seeing is, some use cases in which we are using intelligent experience of the BMS, wherein the BMS is capable of two-way communication. So you have all the data extraction and sending of data to the cloud or to a wired platform, and then understanding that data in order to send over-the-air updates or firmware over-the-air updates in order to improve the life and performance of the battery. So ION essentially plays in this segment, visualization as well as the intelligent experience. I'll just touch upon what the intelligent experience is that we are offering, and then move on to why we believe that intelligent experience is not what the market may necessarily need at this point in time. But before we jump to that, this is a quick overview of the product portfolio that we have. So you see 3 products over here. There are multiple variants within these products itself. Today, we have BMSs that cover the entire voltage spectrum, starting right from 24 volts, going all the way up to 1080 volts. So FSCT is the low voltage BMS, as you can see, for bicycle micromobility application. FSLT is one of our highest selling products that's primarily used in 2 and 3 wheelers. What we have done is taken a platform approach and build the BMS to be extremely versatile, which means there is high configurability on these BMSs, and you can tweak a lot of these parameters to make them relevant for the application or the use case you want. So both these BMSs are, FSCT is a monolithic board which has MOSFETs on the board itself. FSLT basically works with power distribution units or the current, the MOSFET based SSR up to 95 amperes. And then we have the FSXT, which is our high voltage BMS that is relevant for commercial vehicles and energy storage systems. You can get the data sheets on the website. I'm not going into too much technical information. This is just an overview of the applications that these BMSs can cater to. Talking about the intelligent BMS, right? So today the BMSs that we have designed are intelligent. They have capability to not only collect and send the data, but also to receive the data. So any config updates that you would want to do, we leverage the smartphone or the desktop software that we have in order to send config updates to the BMS. So the intelligent BMS is, it's configurable, including the CAN IDs that you can tweak. We offer a lot of configuration parameters, almost about 250, 300 parameters that are there. And I think Lithium Balance offers a similar experience as well. The idea is to make sure that the user is able to tweak it based on the cells that they use, the chemistry that they're using, the application that they want to use in. So on the right side, you see some of these config parameters. And then of course, within each of these branches, you see many more parameters that exist. From a swappability and charging standpoint, the expectation from an intelligent BMS is to basically manage portability and swappability. So you have batteries that are currently getting connected in parallel. It's a very tricky use case because if the SOCs are different and the batteries get connected to the network, there's a high paralleling current that can flow between them. So it's important that you basically make sure that swappability is there. And when these batteries go inside the vehicles, the paralleling operates seamlessly. From a swappability standpoint as well, a lot of customers are moving towards this. It's important that you don't just connect it with any charger. You basically have the right handshaking protocols and the security protocols in order to make sure that the batteries are not getting misused. So swappability and charging is a key feature that we offer. I already touched upon paralleling because when you're putting two batteries in a vehicle, the intent is to parallel them in order to increase the overall range of the battery. We implement interesting features such as auto addressing that allows us to eliminate the use of an external controller or a hardware in order to do paralleling. So the BMS itself is designed to support paralleling without reliance on any external hardware. That's one of the core IPs that we have built inside our BMS. Which is what we're not seeing a lot of companies do. They typically rely on an external hardware, which overall adds to the cost and the complexity when it comes to connecting batteries in a network. Then, this is what we're seeing as a use case for most of the fleet operators, wherein they're trying to leverage IoT. So they want to do real-time data logging and visualization in order to understand how their assets are performing. Most of them want to do geo-fencing in order to limit the vehicle in a specific location or geography and remotely lock it in case a user is misusing or taking it out of that territory. They also want to do these quota updates based on the battery degradation and performance, because typically when you're using it for a fleet, you see the battery degradation happen much faster considering the way it's getting used. So you would want to recalibrate the parameters of the BMS in order to ensure that the life and performance of the battery does not degrade significantly. So over time, we've been deploying those solutions in the market. And what we identified is that the market currently is at a point wherein you have these PCMs that don't have data logging. Some of them have CAN, most of them don't have CAN. There is limited configurability or no configurability. Even if there is configurability, the values are hard-coded in the BMS. The SOX algorithms are highly inaccurate. You see them fluctuating between 60, 70, 80, 90 randomly. So we've seen that market is currently over here wherein they've been using PCM traditionally. We also see that there are a lot of companies who are offering a very good BMS experience, but this experience comes at a cost. And performance. So, these are highly configurable BMS. You have a lot of parameters. They've taken the platform approach in order to build this. And then, there was a significant delta between what was getting offered in the market and what the market has been using, which is why we decided to address this gap by speaking with a lot of stakeholders to understand what exactly they need, because moving directly to a intelligent experience is not required for them at this point in time. And the cost does not justify the movement to that direction. So what we decided to do is basically design and engineer a more cost-efficient BMS that has data logging as the basic feature with CAN communication. The SOX accuracies are extremely important because you cannot compromise on the user experience. Okay, so if in your mobile phone, if your battery goes suddenly from 60 to 50, it's still acceptable. But in your electric vehicle, if your battery suddenly goes from 20 to 10 or 5% in the middle of a road or a highway, it's not acceptable at all, because it's not easy to plug a charger in the middle of the road. So it's important that we maintain these high SOX accuracies. And most importantly, what we have decided to do is take a more product application-based approach instead of taking a platform-based approach. So the idea is to build for the Indian 2 and 3 wheelers by understanding more of the market nuances and the requirements, and then incorporating that into a cost-efficient BMS. So we have some new products that are on the way. We expect this product to basically have most of the features that our existing solutions do, but eliminate some of the unnecessary requirements. For example, serialization is not what we are seeing in the market as a requirement. Paralleling is needed, but the existing solution supports up to 18 batteries in parallel, whereas you can use this BMS to support up to 4 to 6 batteries in parallel, which is relatively sufficient for a 2 and 3 wheeler application. Configuration parameters, because we are making it very application specific, we don't have to offer tons of configuration parameters. We can significantly reduce that down, and this also enables a lot of startups to use this not as a plug and play system, but come very close to being that. And of course, the most important thing is the cost factor, which is highly important in the Indian context, and that's going to be the focus. So overall, few of these things will remain intact, from a configurability standpoint, so that we offer this experience to the OEM and they don't have to depend on us for each and every parameter change that they want to do. And at the same time, also offer some of these features that we see as a recurring requirement from most of the Indian customers. Apart from that, when we talk about the BMS, we don't only look at the hardware, right? The entire experience that we want to provide is that of the ecosystem. So we have been building our software platforms as well that enable customers to seamlessly configure, integrate, and use these BMSs, and then also do diagnostics, troubleshooting during service and support stages. So we have smartphone applications, both on iOS and Android. We have our Edison Cloud platform hosted on the cloud. And then we have a desktop application that connects to the BMS using CAN. So it forms an entire part of the ecosystem that works seamlessly, all well integrated with each other, in order to make sure that the customer is, customer, when I say the customer, for us, it's basically the OEM or the battery pack maker, is able to use the BMS and configure it for seamless integration. Apart from that, we also touched upon localization. So it's quite important for us. We are headquartered in Mumbai. We have 85 plus people today. The idea is to keep our offices localized, keep our production localized in order to have control over the technology and production and cater to majority of the Indian customers. This is one thing that is becoming important with each passing day. And we understand the importance of this, which is why we've taken initiatives to keep this localized and ensure that the supply chain dependency on other countries is limited. So that's a very quick overview of where things stand. You can always visit the website that has a lot more information on the BMS and the technologies that we're building, or you can always reach out to us as well.
Thanks, Sahil. Thanks for presentation. I see a lot of progress since last I had, basically touch base with the Iron Energy team. I'm very happy that there are multiple product lines which you are which have come forward to. And now I will ask all our viewers, members, if they have any questions for the Iron Energy team, they can either ask straight away or they can also type questions. Okay, so Vineet is asking to Sahil that can you please clarify if you supply hardware including battery connectors, cooling elements, etc., along with software and PCBs for monitoring. I think he has not closed the entire question. Yeah, Sahil, go ahead.
Yeah, so at present, we offer the software and the hardware. When it comes to the hardware, we offer the BMS with the connectors, and then we also provide the harness kits. Some of these components, for example, if you're using a contactor or you're using external precharge and all, we typically help you with the integration and connect you with the relevant vendors. But we as a company do not provide this because the requirements vary from customer to customer. But we have a range of standard products that should meet most of your requirements when it comes to BMS and power handling. Cooling elements and all at present, we don't provide that. We provide just the temperature sensor, but we are limiting ourselves to the BMS and then have the relevant vendors in place in case you want something specific for the entire integration.
Thanks, Sahil. I think Vineet is satisfied with the answer also. And if there are any other questions, the panel is open. Okay, great. So in case you need any further clarification from IN team, feel free to reach out to us. We will connect you with Sahil and team. And once again, thanks Sahil for your product demo and presentation. I hope this, I would say, session will help our existing members and future members both to understand and products. Reach out to you for further discussions. Thank you.
Thanks, Attendees.
Moving to our next demo sessions, I will request Vineet to maybe go ahead and share his screen. And yeah, go ahead, Vineet, please.
Just to be sure, am I audible to you all?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Wonderful, fantastic. Well, good. First of all, thank you, Dane, and your team giving us an opportunity to be here today and present our organization. In fact, this is a great thing, since a little bit before starting the presentation and telling about my organization, Truventor, we are also a startup which supports, in fact, startup in various domains. EV is one of the focus what we have right now. And before that, let me tell you some of the things about me. I remember the time when I was there at Bosch Engineering. In fact, I studied at the University of Stuttgart, my master's mechanical engineering, and I was working for about 6-7 years for Bosch Engineering. And we were the first organization to convert a Porsche in 2007, 2008 into an electric vehicle. That was a demonstration vehicle. And those memories, those things, EMS, though I was not technically involved in that project, I was on the process side looking that all the processes are at place. But that reminisces me of many of the things what you people are doing. Fantastic. The job what you're doing in India right now with Altair helping the people, and lots of developments are happening over there. I'm very happy about that. So coming back to the presentation, I'm sure that you are able to see my screen also.
Yes, you can see your screen.
All right. So see, I will take you through a journey through Truventor, which we started. It was started by Soumitra Joshi, the founder, who was the managing director of Trump laser cutting machines in India. And I myself was also responsible for a German company. I established a component manufacturing company for automobile in India, supplying to Maruti and many other OEMs like Synchronizer Ring. And probably this is because of this EV initiative that I'm sitting with you people, because otherwise I would have been in a mechanical transmission supplying to Renault, Maruti, and all other OEMs in the globe. Well, this was the origin of this startup, what we had. And I will take you through a journey, who we are, in fact. Yeah, first thing we will be talking about today. And then we'll be talking about, yeah, what we do, in fact, what are we doing right now for helping various domains, including EV, and how we do this and what we have achieved till now. So these 4 basic questions in the red thread, what we're following through the presentation. See, we are an agile manufacturing ecosystem. When an organization like Eon Energy, you said you connect to the people, and we are exactly that platform which connects to 700 people right now in various technologies in India. Like I'll go through those technologies also. That in fact helps EV manufacturing. And Kamleshwar has already mentioned one of the important points over here, that see, the manufacturing is very, very niche and very, very tedious, with fiber reinforced plastics and precise welding, laser cutting, welding, bending, and all those things are required. So that is exactly what we provide to these startups and other organizations. Our goal is that we want to have an agile manufacturing system at your fingertips for transparent, reliable, and secure manufacturing. In fact, we are disrupting the traditional part manufacturing industry, where you have to select a supplier, you have to go over there, do the auditing, and float an RFQ, get a quote, and then you wait for your part as a startup. You are not recognized as a customer, and then you have to wait over there for 10 days, 20 days, probably 2 months. Your part is not getting ready, your customer is waiting. So this is exactly we want to disrupt, and you focus on your front end, and we are the back end support of what you can get as on-demand manufacturing ecosystem. And we have unlimited manufacturing capabilities and capacities with an ultimate agility, transparency, and reliability. So how this function, we'll go through this in the coming slides. Well, what we do, in fact, as mentioned, that we are the people who connect the buyer side and the supplier side on a platform, on a very typical marketplace, but we take the responsibility of the parts as well. So addressing the needs of a buyer, say on the startup side, they do not know whether 10 EV vehicles will be sold, or in the first month probably, or in the development phase, in the prototyping, how many prototypes I do need. So they have too many touch points, like as I mentioned, for machining, for fiber reinforced plastics probably, and many other tedious technologies like laser cutting and punching and bending as well. They want transparency in the supply chain. In fact, where is my part? I have ordered it, I'm waiting for the prototypes, I don't know where it is. So these are the questions we address on their side. On the supplier side, we help them improve their processes, remove inefficiencies, and we also help them reducing their financial pressures, getting them working capital and all that. So online top line growth, we also help. It's like, just imagine that a supplier in India, he wants access to a global market in Germany or anywhere else where we are active, he will get it while sitting at their home. Although a startup, so there is a break. I mean, a startup in supply chain or a supply chain manager will not be interested whether he is growing or not. So this is the role of a platform, what we fulfill over here in the complete ecosystem, providing the right price, right quality, and the delivery right on time, And what we see is that if we consider both the buyers and the supplier side, there is a break in the chain. As I mentioned, buyer is not interested for certain things what supplier is doing. So this is exactly, in fact, what we play a role at Truventor, that we connect the needs and the requirements of these two stakeholders in the complete supply chain to make the complete cloud manufacturing platform easier, faster, and cheaper to start manufacturing. And this is exactly, we believe, that we have done for the startup ecosystem in India for EV also. And as I mentioned, so what we do is that we take care of the backend technologies like CNC machining, MATE precision machining, up to below 10 micron even, or any other coatings are required. We do sheet metal technologies where we have access to Trump laser cutting machines because of our founder, for 1,500 of them on the platform, which can be used 3D printing. I mean, for many parts where 4, 5, 6 parts are required and tooling is an issue. I mean, we all know as manufacturers that tooling costs are high. So we can go in for certain solutions in the alpha phase of the development where you can get 3D printed parts from us. And many other technologies we deal in, like metal casting, injection molding, vacuum casting, and many more, like fiber reinforced plastic. We have access multi-layered bus bars we have already made for our customers in India, and other solutions like connectors with bending and laser technologies. See, how do we do this? Yeah, as I said, that it is utmost important not only for multinational organization, but for a startup also to have a transparency at each step of the manufacturing process. So we divide that manufacturing process at an abstract level in pre-order, pre-production, production, post-production, and the delivery phase. And if you see our platform, we provide you with possibilities as a customer that we do supplier discovery for you. We have a free of cost 3D viewer where you don't need any license, CATIA or any other software viewer or even designer software. So we provide the www.calculate.truventor.ai. You can go and visualize, slice your models and make all those calculations what you require. So DFM feedback we give you, we have experts over there that this can be made properly. And this is exactly what a startup in fact is looking for. A feedback, in fact, a mentor and a coach as a guide over there who can give DFM feedback, design optimizations. We discuss with the buyers, for that matter, a purchaser in an organization, designer, R&D people, process optimizations, price calculations. In this phase, we provide as service. And in the pre-production phase, which is relevant for supplier, if supplier says, sorry, I'm not getting a sheet for this much of length, and this material, aluminium 6061, 6062, probably is not available with this supplier, we help them, giving access to them also. And we help to procure those materials. So helping not only the customer, but also the supplier, as I mentioned, because we are an ecosystem. And in the production phase, see, this is a revolution that a buyer will get an access to the controller of the machine, whether my part is running or not, and how much has been produced in the supply chain, and when it will be delivered. So you have direct access of the machine controller where your part is being produced. And obviously for a supplier, it is also important to understand whether my machines are running efficiently or not. So post-production, we will provide you, just imagine that you as a startup, you can visualize your parts inspection while sitting in your office. Our supplier and a Truventor coordinator is communicating with the customer to provide him the right inspection visualizations. Like with the goggles, you can see the part being inspected, you can instruct, you have annotations. So this helps you to give the confidence that the part what will be delivered to you will be according to the specifications. See, delivery, the complete transparency, when we claim, then you will be having an access to a GPS where you can see whether my part has, where is it in the transition, and you can plan your further steps accordingly. See, Truventor Engage, in fact, is a module along with all Truventor Calculate, what I mentioned, Truventor Procure, Truventor Control, Inspect, and Delivery. So these are independent modules on the platform. And engagement is where everybody is engaged on the platform, where you have free access of group discussions, WhatsApp communications similar to WhatsApp, and all those. You can record your video conferences so that what discussions you have with your supplier can be, in fact, documented, protocoled for 10 years, 15 years, whatever is the lifespan required for documentation in the automobile industry. So this is, in fact, how it functions in the supply chain. How do we do this? The question, like we have pre-selected supplier networks where we have filtering process. So the best qualified supplier are pre-filtered onto our platform. And when an RFQ comes, depending upon the technology required and the iteration with the customer, we select 3 of them from our bunch of qualified suppliers, Truventor qualified network, and produce the parts delivered to your doorstep. This is how it functions in the supply chain. Well, we are different from our peers. We are not IndiaMart. We do not deal in standard products. Yeah. So this is, in fact, a framework where you can see how we differentiate ourselves in the global arena, where lots of platforms are available right now. So we are not Moglix where you can get standard parts. We are also not the listing of the companies where you call up, nobody picks up the phone. So we are also not that we have like DG Fabster and paperless parts. They've in fact deal only in single technologies or less integration of the suppliers, and Imaginarium, a 3D printing company. So we have probably 20 Imaginariums on our platform who provides you 3D prototypes and manufactured parts in serial production also. So we are also not in fact a ZWork or other. So battery laser hub in Europe, 3D hubs also a company acquired by Zometry. So what we are trying to say over here, that we are an ecosystem. We claim that we work deep, integrated with the suppliers and connect all the stakeholders to the platform, which nobody does right now globally. What we have achieved till now, we have 3,500 connected machines, various technologies. We have 250 customers. In fact, they are much more than these numbers. These are old numbers, 300 plus we have right now, and 700 partners. They have also increased with us. So we have various qualified partners over here who manufacture the things for us, and we deliver it to you with our responsibility. We have 300,000 parts already produced. These are much more now, 50 materials. I mean, you name it and we would have done it. I mean, we have machined magnesium also, the most critical lightweight material for aerospace applications. We have done aluminium also, all grades required for lightweight applications in EVs. We have done normal MS also. We have done titanium also. I mean, nickel, pure nickel also for some applications we have done nickel alloys in any case. So this is what we have achieved till now, that we have done lots of work for Indian customers and as well as global customers. We have supplied to Europe also and many of them in Australia. Fiesmann is one of the customers, a German customer in the household. I mean, Mahindra, Johnson, Bosch, Siemens household. I don't need to mention, you people all know. So automotive, we have lots of customers, startups, Ecopia, solar power organization. We have lots of, I mean, we have lots of customers in EV also, but due to our NDA, what we have signed with them, I cannot name every one of those in this. But we are working at least with 6-7 EV manufacturers in India. And I mean, Log9 materials is one of them, you know this. So what is our goal? Our goal is that we want to have a manufacturing ecosystem at your fingertips. Believe me that you don't need to go to any supplier. This is our vision. After, if not after 2 years, then after 5 years, we will provide you all the information what you require will be at your fingertips in your office only. So this is what I wanted to say. And at last, obviously, this is important for you, that if you want to, I am based in fact over here in Europe, but your first point of contact in India could be Vivek, whom you can contact. The email is over here, and this is his mobile number also. Probably if you need any support, any help, any further information, he will be the right person to be contacted. Well, this is from my side in a very quick way of presenting. I could have gone into details of this, what we are doing right now. Anyhow, I cannot show you the figures of the patented products of our customer right now, like multiple level bus bars. And we have also developed complete battery boxes with sheet metal, deep drawn technologies and all that. So I'm not able to show all this, but we can support you in our ecosystem where you can be benefited from our suppliers and get the right product at the right time for your EV solution in 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, or even with any of the like heavy vehicles like buses and trucks and all that. This is in fact from my side. Over to you. Any questions? Happy to answer.
Thanks, Vineet. We will request the audience, in case they have any questions, they can ask me directly. Okay, great. So thanks, Vineet, for your presentation. I think Truventor is doing great work, and many technologies which you mentioned are difficult for EV companies to master. Busbar, battery casing, cell holding, and even connector development, manufacturing are very complex, and usually we see a lot of failures in meeting parts, or I would say tolerances. And I'm very sure that Truventor can help our members in making components which are fit for application on very few iterations, rather than wasting time, money in multiple units or prototypes they make through the DFM support, which you have already mentioned. And thanks for your presentation. And to the members, in case you have any questions, pass on those to us. We will connect you with Vineet and others from Truventor, and help you basically seek answers in that direction. With this, yes, Vineet, would you like to say anything before we close?
Well, yes, absolutely. In fact, I see lots of synergies over here with Eon Energy and with many other organizations, because localization was one of a global trend, I would say, or a trend in the industry, where you can only survive in India if you have a localization successful initiatives being executed in India. And we are there to help you, and any support from our side, we can get you technology access from companies like Trump laser cutting from Germany, shifting it to India. So this can be few of the initiatives which we can help develop the industry in India over there.
Sure. Thanks, Vineet. Yasser, would you like to ask a question? I think you have raised your hand. Go ahead, Yasser.
Yeah, I have a question to Mr. Vineet. How do you manage to keep your suppliers to stick on the timeline? And if they fail to deliver on timeline, what happens if they fail to deliver on timeline?
So, Yasser, in fact, a very important question in the Indian context, that what we do with our suppliers, obviously, in the pre-qualification of the suppliers, we discuss all these things, that we will be going through that stringent quality planning measures, the PPAP and APQP processes, what is very prevalent in automobile industry, and which ensures that you plan the quality assurance and the delivery well in advance. And we plan those steps with the supplier together. And obviously, this is one of the pre-qualification criteria also when we go and audit them. And during the execution phase, we make sure that one of our person, he is in touch with the supplier, if not physically, then virtually, so that the plan what has been made to make that part earlier on is executed and the part is delivered on time. Obviously, in Indian context, we all know, I was there for 11 years transferring technology. It is easily said than done. So you have to really monitor each step, and that is exactly what we provide to our customers as a service. So we monitor, and we have a stringent control through technologies and through physical visits, which ensures that the customer door-to-door delivery is done on time.
Mr. Vineet, this is Martin here. I handle the partnerships at Micelio. Your company and the work that you do is quite phenomenal, quite interesting, and your experience is also great. Since you mentioned ecosystem and knowledge transfer, etc., I would be separately connecting with you to see how we can take this forward for the ecosystem in India. I think we should, and we will be able to find some synergies to help the Indian ecosystem.
Sure. I mean, the word itself, we are very keen to work with the key stakeholders in industries which are growing. We say sunrise industries, and EV is one of those. And we are happy to collaborate with you people and see where we can help the industry as well as create value for each other. And may I request you to probably connect to Vivek also. I will be there for you for any knowledge transfer initiatives and any technology transfers. But I think let us have a separate discussion on this, because this is too elaborative a topic to be taken on this platform.
Absolutely. And lastly, if all the other participants on today's meet, if you have any suggestions, any great ideas that the ecosystem can be taken up, please write into Micelio Studio. The team here will relate it, and then we'll collaboratively come up with solutions and ideas to take this forward. And I also look forward to see most of you in person. The market is opened up. Things are much better these days. Would love to have more people in person talking. Mr. Vineet, when you're next in India, please let us know. We'd love to have you also in Bangalore.
Well, thank you so much for the invite, and I'll be my pleasure. I'll be glad to meet you over there in person as well.
With that, thanks, Martin. Thanks, Vineet, for the presentation. With that, we have come to the end of the session today. All the members, all the participants, panelists, and the partners and members who presented their products today. We really thank your time, effort, and your interest. I also thank all the visitors, all the members and partners which have visited us today here. Now we will proceed for, I would say, offline networking and tea session, and we will conclude on our virtual event. With that, thank you note. We will see you soon next month, as Martin said, hopefully in person, most of us. And take care. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.